Hello, Planeswalkers. My name's Eric, and this is Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, deck Teck. Nicol Bolas is a legendary Elder Dragon creature, which says, when Nicol Bolas enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. It's one colorless, one blue, one black to cast. It's a 4/4 flyer. And if you pay 7 mana, you exile Nicol Bolas the Ravager, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. And so once you transform it, and by the way, you can only do this as a sorcery, it's got these abilities. It becomes Nicol Bolas the Arisen. And the first 3 abilities you can do right away, right when it flips. So that's, I feel like, the most powerful thing, is that it gets to do 3 things as soon as it enters the battlefield. I mean, most Planeswalkers don't do that. Even if they have 2 different +1s, the -1 usually they don't get to do right away, so this is fantastic. +2, draw 2 cards. Done. Great card. But it gets better. -3, Nicol Bolas the Ravager deals 10 damage to target creature or Planeswalker. 10. Yeah. -4. Sorry, that was -3 to do the that one. I don't know if I got that right, but anyway, -4. Put target creature or Planeswalker from a graveyard onto the battlefield from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And then -12, you exile all but the bottom card of target player's library, which is basically, you know, a target player loses the game unless they happen to have Laboratory Maniac, or you do it to yourself if you happen to have Laboratory Maniac. So I really love this card. I played my first game with this deck last night, and I would have won except for somebody copied my Kokusho, and I did a board wipe and I forgot they had it and I ended up killing myself. But I mean, it was the last turn of the game. I was you know, the arch enemy the whole game with this guy out. It was a 4-player game, and yeah, I mean, I was really almost just won the whole game. And so I haven't been following the advice of all these other stupid YouTube videos that are saying that they're putting in cards because they have Bolas on them. You know, they're putting in cards because they have a picture of Bolas or because they have a quote of Bolas. You know, this card isn't really good, but you know, the 3 gods, they used to be you know, servants of Bolas, so I'm going to put all 3 of those gods in this deck. All right, don't do this. All right, don't do the flavor deck. Don't do the story deck. All right, build a deck that's good, that's going to win games, because that's going to be fun. All right, the whole flavor deck, you know, I put this card in because it has a picture of Nicol Bolas on it. Don't do that. All right, make a deck that works. So I built the deck around the enter the battlefield ability. Enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. Now, it's not a discard deck. It's an enter the battlefield deck. Okay, so that means dragons entering the battlefield, hence enter the dragon. All right, so getting into it, starting with the dragons that enter the battlefield and do things mostly. Here's the dragon section of the deck. So we got the Demanding Dragon, all right, enters the battlefield, deals 5 damage to target opponent unless that player sacrifices a creature. All right, so it also works as removal. All right, good removal. Demanding Dragon. Slumbering Dragon. All right, whenever an opponent attacks you or attacks you or a Planeswalker you control, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and it can't attack or block unless it has 5 +1/+1 counters on it, but at that point it's an 8/8 that you got for 1 mana, so that's pretty cool. And it's a dragon, so you know, it's not the best card, but we know we're going for dragons here. And God, I feel like I'm being a hypocrite here saying it's not the best card, but you know, we're going for that. But no, honestly, having a relevant creature type is important, you know, and so I think that's pretty good. Dragon Lord Silumgar enters the battlefield, and it gains control of target creature. And then we got the card that killed me last game, Kokusho. Just a great dragon in general. If you can find ways to reanimate it, you know, you're just gaining tons of life and draining your opponents for tons of life. Bogardan Hellkite. When this enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage as you choose among any number of target creatures or players. Which is cool. Here's a low drop dragon. Metallic Mimic, right? 2 mana, basically an essential in any tribal deck, but I feel like especially in dragons where we need those low cast creatures. Again, we need those low cast creature types that are relevant. Stormbreath Dragon, right? Flying, protection from white. It has Monstrosity 3 by paying 7 mana, and when it becomes monstrous, it deals damage to each opponent equal to the cards in that player's hand. So that is great. Dealing damage to people for drawing cards, which we all know people are running Mystic Remora or Rhystic Study, or Nezahal now. Next dragon is Niv-Mizzet, Draco Genius. I'm planning on putting the other Niv-Mizzet in here. I failed to mention this deck needs a lot of work for sure. I mean, I just played the first game with it last night, but I made it with the cards that I have, and I think it's doing really good actually. So again, Niv-Mizzet, Draco Genius, and it's whenever it deals damage to a player, it might draw a card, and then for blue and a red, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. And it's funny, is the other one's kind of the opposite of that. It's whenever you draw a card, it deals damage to a player, and it allows you to draw a card. So both Niv-Mizzets are great for this deck. Boltwing Marauder. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+0, and the target creature gets +2/+0 till the end of the turn. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield again, enter the dragon, enter the battlefield stuff, things happen. Right. Furyborn Hellkite, when this enters the battlefield, if an opponent was dealt damage, it gets 6 +1/+1 counters. We got Thundermaw Hellkite, when it enters the battlefield, does a mini board wipe, or at least taps down flying creatures your opponents control. It's kind of weird that it's flying creatures. Most of the time these things do it to non-flying creatures, but so a little versatility there. Here's another non-dragon dragon, right? Torian Mauler. I mean, it's not a dragon, but it's a dragon because it's all creature types, and so it gets things done. It gets big. It's a low drop, and so again, not like a fabulous card, but it's a relevant creature type. It's a dragon that's under 4 mana. I mean, that's really important in this deck, so we're doing it. Udvara Hellkite, not enter the battlefield ability, but I mean, come on, are you going to build a dragon deck without this card? You're a fool, right? Udvara Hellkite goes in every dragon deck. Whenever a dragon attacks, get another 6/6 dragon. They're just crapping out dragons like crazy. No reason not to do that. Scourge of Vel'Kus. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield, things get blown up. People get dealt damage. Exact wording is, whenever another dragon enters the battlefield, or Scourge of Vel'Kus, under my control, it deals X damage to target creature or player where X is the number of dragons you control. So sort of like a little Dragon Tempest right on a dragon. Latlas, Dragon Queen, new card. So whenever a dragon enters the battlefield, you get a 5/5 dragon. And she also has a way of pumping up your dragons. All of them. Most of the time this, one colorless, 1 red says this creature gets +1/+0. But this says all dragons get +1/+0. Broken. Really great card. Here's another super cheap, this is probably the worst dragon in the deck. Absolutely. I mean, I really hope Wizards someday prints better low drop dragons, or at least better low drop, all creature type creatures, but here we go. We got Dragon Hatchling. It's got that. It gets, if you got enough red, ooh, watch out. It's going to deal you damage. All right. And then Dragon Lord Culligan. This card is really underestimated in Commander, but I mean, all your, creatures have haste. That's always good. Give all your creatures haste. It has flying and haste. And I mean, its last ability isn't, it doesn't matter at all in Commander, the last ability. But I mean, it's a 6/5 haste, gives all your other dragons haste. I mean, what do you want here? All right, so next, let's get into things that take advantage of enter the battlefield. So we got the usual Panharmonicon. Put it in the wrong pile, I think. Really? Here we go. Sorry. Wrong pile. So, Panharmonicon. When an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Yeah, so any of these enter the battlefield effects, you know, Laplace enters the battle, when a dragon enters the battlefield, make a 5/5 dragon. When the Bloodthirst dragon enters the battlefield, put 6+1/+1 counters on it. You know, this is all doubles. So that'd be 12+1/+1 counters. Instead, you get 2 dragons. You know, so that's great. This one's whenever a dragon enters the battlefield, under your control, it deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of dragons you control. It's called Dragon Tempest. That's 1 in a red. And so that's just, brutal in dragons. They enter the battlefield. Again, any of these things combined with Panharmonicon are doubled. Yeah, it's great. So all these enter the battlefield effects get doubled with Panharmonicon. And so, yeah, and dragon enters the battlefield, it just blows things up. All right, next is Strionic Resonator. Enter the battlefield effects are triggered effects, so you can pay 2 and tap this and copy the enter the battlefield ability. And then Conjurer's Closet. At the end of your turn, you get to exile something and bring it back, and this enter the battlefield effect happens again. So there you go, ETB. I really want to get Cloudship Curio, but I just haven't bought it yet, so there you go. We got Perforos. Whenever anything enters the battlefield, he deals 2 damage to each opponent. A really broken non-dragon creature for this deck. It's a great addition, with Panharmonicon, whenever anything enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage. If you got Laplace out, you get 2 more dragons, which are each going to deal 4 damage. I mean, all these synergize together really well. Any enter the battlefield and stuff. Since we're not in white, we are lacking a lot of the really good synergies for enter the battlefield effects and for blinking. So we're going to do some reanimation. Right, so that's why I got Havengul Lich in here. I don't have a lot of activated abilities, but for 1 mana, you get to play a creature from your graveyard. Great. Reanimate it, and you get the enter the battlefield effect again. Then we got Nim Deathmantle. Whenever something you control dies, you can pay 4 mana and bring it back from the graveyard and attach Nim Deathmantle to it. It gets +2/+2 and becomes a black zombie in addition to its other types. So great for reanimating literally every single creature which died. You can do this multiple times and stack it up, so you could literally save your entire board from a board wipe using Nim Deathmantle. Great in almost any creature-based deck, honestly. Then we got Thrilling Encore. This card's hilarious. It's a new card. Put on the battlefield under your control all creatures that died this turn, and it's instant speed for 4 and a black, which is a little expensive, but I mean, it's almost like a mini Rise of the Dark Realms. Someone does a board wipe and you play this, you get all those creatures. And I love the flavor, welcome to the winning team, because if you play this, you are suddenly the winning team for sure. Then we got Dance of the Dead. If I had a couple more versions of this, I would also put in the World Gorger Dragon so that you can get literally an infinite enter the battlefield combo effect with World Gorger Dragon. But I only got 1 of these right now. But yeah, if you're building the deck, definitely get the other 2 versions of this, Reanimate Dead enchantments, so that you can play World Gorger Dragon, and then you just, with World Gorger Dragon, you exile your whole team, and then when it dies, you bring them all back, and it has an infinite loop with that. It's really good. I don't think there's any more Enter the Battlefield synergies that I mixed up in a different pile. Okay. Yeah, well, Eldest Reborn, I guess that's why I got confused, is because the Eldest Reborn is kind of, its last ability gets you something reanimated, but really its first ability is a removal, so I had it in the removal pile, and that's why I was confused for a second there. So let's get into removal. So, Eldest Reborn, it's got a picture of Bolas, so I'm playing it. No, it's a good card. The enchantment sagas are pretty cool. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker when it ticks up 1. For 2, each opponent discards a card, and for 3, you get to put something from the graveyard on the battlefield under your control, a creature or a planeswalker. Maybe you'll hit that planeswalker sometimes. I actually used it for my own planeswalker, which I'll bring up later. But anyway, another good removal for this deck is Earthquake. Ha! So it's full of flying creatures, so why not make it a one-sided board wipe? Destroy all those creatures your opponents control without flying. Cyclonic Rift. I got the Chinese version because, everybody should know this card. if you're playing cards that aren't English, I say they should always be a card that everyone knows already anyway. You know, it's really annoying when, you know, you play a card that's not in English that no one knows what it does and you just have to pull out your phone. Anyway, continuing. Vandal Blast, one-sided board wipe, destroy all artifacts you don't control, or you could just destroy a single artifact you don't control. I just told this story last night too. Someone once played Soul Ring turn 1. I played Vandal Blast turn 1, blew up their Soul Ring, and they were like done the whole rest of the game. It really ruined their strategy. Sorry if I keep looking over here. You know, I'm recording this on my iPad and the camera. It's kind of, I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at the screen. So sorry for that. Anyway, another one-sided board wipe. Mizzium Mortars. All right, so deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control, or if you overload it, it's each creature you don't control. Great one-sided board wipe for red. Torment to Hailfire. Really broken card. I'm not playing it just because it has Nicol Bolas on it. You pay X. I played this last night for 13 and almost killed everybody. I mean, you can often win the game if you can pump enough mana into that. So yeah, repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. And so I had them repeating that process 13 times last night. They really didn't like me last night. It was great. I love that feeling. Then we got the good old Hero's Downfall. You know, destroy target creature or planeswalker. There are lots of other options. The important thing to remember is this is instant speed. All right, instant speed. This is why this is the better choice than like the reawakened version or whatever. All right, then pseudo removal. You know, counter spells. We got 3 counter spells. This one's called Soul Manipulation. Choose one or both. Counter target creature spell or return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, nice. So little reanimation going on. Mystic Confluence. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Counter target spell unless that spell's controller pays 3. Or you can return target creature to its owner's hand. Or you can draw a card. And so doing all 3 of those is probably the best choice, I think, when you cast this spell. You counter a spell, you return target creature to its owner's hand, and you draw a card. I mean, I think it's pretty rare that you're going to choose the same mode twice on that one, but maybe. And then Yield counter spell. If you can afford it, get, you know, other counter spells, but I only, you know, I got counter spell. It works. All right. And then, oh, you know, back to removal. I had this out of the pile, I realized. Anger of the Gods. Yeah. Now, I know lots of people are playing Hour of Devastation because it's got a picture of Nicol Bolas on it, right? But Hour of Devastation also happens to kill Nicol Bolas if it's not a Planeswalker. So, I mean, you know, Anger of the Gods kills everything that isn't Nicol Bolas. Again, I'm trying to go for one-sided board wipes. I'm not building a flavor deck here. So, Anger of the Gods. You know? Come on. God is angry. All right, so now for the ramp. Here's a new one I just drew, Dragon's Horde. So whenever a dragon enters the battlefield, you get a counter on this, and then you can remove a counter from this and tap it to draw a card. And you can also tap it to add 1 mana of any color, which is great because, you know, it's often these 3 mana artifacts are adding, you know, specific colors or colorless. So it's great. This adds any color. It's Dragon Enter the Battlefield effect. Great for Enter the Dragon. Got Sapphire Medallion. Blue spells cost 1 less to cast for only 2 mana. Great. I also have included the Jet Medallion for black spells cost 1 less to cast. I didn't include the Ruby Medallion, but I do have Hazard's Monument. So red creature spells cost 1 less to cast. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. I want to get that order correct there. So I like that one better than the Ruby Medallion because it also has the draw of a card effect, which is good. We got Spectral Spotlight. Choose target player, and that player adds 1 mana of any color to their mana pool. So get a little political here. You know, if you want to, you know, alleviate some of the hatred, you know, you can help someone out, help them casting a spell, or just, you know, use it yourself, of course. Thematic Compass. Super good card for almost any commander deck. So Thematic Compass says, pay 3 and tap it, search your library for a basic land, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 7 or more lands, transform Thematic Compass. And when it transforms, it becomes Spires of Orazca. And Spires of Orazca, you can tap to add 1 mana of any color, 1 colorless mana to your mana pool, or you can tap it to untap target attacking creature and opponent controls and remove it from combat. So, you know, their big, nasty, infect, trample, indestructible creature, you don't care. You just remove it from combat, and it doesn't do any harm to you. So that's so good. Such a political card. All right, and then to the draw. But yeah, Thematic Compass, again, it ramps and it protects you. Yeah, that's what you want in cards. You want cards that do multiple things, that have options, you know. Necropotence. This only does one thing, but it does it really well. Alright, so Necropotence says, skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Pay 1 life. So here's the important part. Pay 1 life. Exile the top card of your library face down. Put that card into your hand at the beginning of your next end step. And so when I first read this card, I was like, what? Like, it's a lot to intake. But the important thing is you can do the last ability as many times as you want. So you can pay 30 life and draw 30 cards. You know? And so that is fabulous. Next we got Nicol Bolas, the Guard Pharaoh. These aren't all draw cards, but they're card advantage. You know, so this is my card advantage pile. So this is my only other Nicol Bolas card in this deck, actually. And so it's the Planeswalker. Enters with 7 loyalty counters. You can +2. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of his or her library until he or she exiles a non-land card. Until end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So you get to, you know, cast a card from their deck for free. +1 is each opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand. Everybody loves that one. And then this is another Planeswalker where you can do its third ability right away. So you get 3 choices right when this enters the battlefield. For -4, Nicol Bolas Godpharaoh deals 7 damage to target opponent or creature that opponent controls. So another removal is always helpful. -12, each non-land permanent exile each non-land permanent your opponents controls. So definitely one-sided board wipe. Exile, gone forever. Nicol Bolas Godpharaoh. Protect him. You really want to ultimate, but you probably won't. Anyway, then we got Keranos, God of Storms, another non-dragon. You know, doesn't... This is... Okay, here's what I say. You only got room for 1 sentimental card. Okay? Only 1. This is my sentimental choice of this deck. I really want to play with Keranos. It's a 6/5 indestructible. As long as your devotion to red and blue is less than 7, Keranos isn't a creature. And reveal the first card you draw on each of your turns. Whenever you reveal a land card this way, draw a card. Whenever you reveal a non-land card this way, Keranos deals 3 damage to target creature or player. And so I think it's great in probably any red-blue deck. And so I'm putting it in this deck. I'm trying it out. That's my only sentimental card. I don't fill up my deck with like, oh, I need to have this, and I need to have this, because it just sounds like it'd be so cool, or the flavor and all that dumb crap. You know, forget the flavor, forget the art, you know, forget what colors things. I want to have 1 color of each Planeswalker. Like, no, dude, just do what's good for your deck, you know. But leave 1 spot. Leave 1 spot for that sentimental card. All right, more draw. Toil and Trouble. This one really helped me out last night. Early game draw. So, you know, yeah, it's great to have those late game draw spells with Axe where you draw like 10 cards, but it's really good to have that early game stuff too to set you up, to get you ready. So the Toil side says target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life, and the Trouble says Trouble deals damage to target player equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. I didn't cast Trouble last night, but Toil was plenty good to draw me the cards. All right, next we got Vanquisher's Banner. It says, when it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. And whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, draw a card. So, a little, an anthem with card draw. It's fabulous. All right, Vanquisher's Banner. Put it in any tribal deck, really, you know, drawing cards. Thassa, you know, not card draw, but card advantage. You know, it lets you scry at the beginning of your upkeep. I mean, that's great. Scry is very underestimated. It's an indestructible 5/5 for 3 mana also. I mean, not a creature unless your devotion to blue is 5, but still. And then its last ability can't be ignored. For 2 mana, you get to make any creature you control unblockable till the end of the turn. So yeah, that's a pretty much a staple for any blue deck. I didn't put it in my blue life gain deck, but I might. Alright, here's a new card, not a dragon. Azra Oddsmaker. Alright, so kind of interesting choice, but I really think it's going to end up being good. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may discard a card. If you do, choose a creature. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player this turn, you draw 2 cards. So if one of your creatures can deal combat damage, you get to draw 2 cards, and you get to do that every time, and you want to deal combat damage. And also just having creatures that have abilities is really good in, you know, giant monster decks like dragons. You know, you want to fill up those low space slots with creatures that do abilities instead of just having non-creature spells. So I think this is a great choice. A 3/3 for 3 with a relevant ability. Dragon Lord's Servant. Some of the ramp spells, I guess, got mixed in here. So here's Dragon Lord's Servant. Dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's great. Let's just get these other ramp spells out of the way. Dragon Speaker Shaman. Dragon spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Great for any dragon deck. Soul Ring. I mean, I guess you gotta have it. My debate with Soul Ring is, yeah, it could be banned, but you know, everybody's already bought one, so if you ban it, you're just gonna screw all those people over. So why would you ban it? Just keep buying them. All right, Burnished Heart. That's the last of the ramp that got mixed in here. All right, Burnished Heart. It's a creature that does the ability, so it's not just an artifact. You know, you got creatures out early game is always a good thing. You need those blockers, you know. So 2/2 for 3, and you can pay 3 more to sacrifice it. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. So this is a great ramp for any deck that's not running green. I mean, I even think with green it even competes because it gets you 2 lands, but it is 6 mana. So honestly, if you're running green, you don't need this. Any deck without green, have a Burnished Heart. Have a heart. All right, Nezahal, Primal Tide. Yeah, this card is just great. I put it in every blue deck, literally every one. A 7/7 for 7, can't be countered. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, draw a card. And then you can discard 3 cards to exile Nezahal, and then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. I mean, oh man, all these abilities. You know, Wedge said it right when this card is great. It's going to do great things. It literally goes in every blue commander deck I have. And it protects itself. It draws you cards. I mean, you can even block. You can block with this guy, chump block it, and if it's going to die, and then use its other ability to exile it and return it. So, I mean, oh my gosh. So great. More card advantage, Sunbird's Invocation. So whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. You may cast a card revealed this way with converted mana cost X or less without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So kind of like a Cascade-esque kind of thing, where you only get to cast, you know, one thing. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Cascade. Sunbird's Invocation, right? Card advantage, get one. Mystic Remora. I'm starting to think this might be even better than Rhystic Study, because nobody ever pays 4 mana. You know, Rhystic Study, people pay 1 mana. Alright, this card gets you cards early game, late game, even late game. Nobody wants to pay 4 mana unless they got infinite mana. You know, this card does great things. It was drawn. Actually, I had this and Nezahal out last night, and literally anytime someone cast a non-creature spell, unfortunately this is non-creature spell, but still, whenever someone cast a non-creature spell, I was drawing cards, for sure. Nobody paid 4 mana. Another underestimated card here, Future Sight. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library. It is 3 blue and 2 for another enchantment. These last few spells have all been enchantments, by the way. And yeah, I mean, this is great. You play it, and then if the top card of your library is a land, you play that land for turn, and then you get another card. I mean, it basically increases your hand size by 1, but that card's not even in your hand. I mean, this is such a great card. This is card advantage, you know, defined right here. You have an extra card. You can play that extra card. I mean, and then once you play that extra card, you have another extra card there. So this can turn into like an extra 3-4 cards a turn. Very good card. Future Sight. Put it in your deck. And then I think we got some cards that don't, fit any of these themes, but they're just great cards, and I included them. So we got Disrupt Decorum. Goad all creatures you don't control, which means until your next turn, those creatures attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. All right, I was just about to play this last night, but I didn't need to. But man, it was going to cause some trouble for sure. Expropriate, yeah, a little costly. I don't. If you haven't noticed, I don't care about the whole budget thing here either. I talk about cards that work, cards that will win you the game. You want to play budget, you're always taking a risk. Be a Magic player, spend some money. All right, so Council's Dilemma. Expropriate says, starting with you, each player votes for time or money. For each time vote, take an extra turn after this one. For each money vote, choose a permanent owned by the voter and gain control of it, and then exile Expropriate. So, yeah, busted card. You will always get one turn out of this because you always choose extra turns. And then, you might get 4 extra turns out of this. It's really good. At the least, you'll get extra turn and gain control of 3 permanents. Your opponent's control. This is great. Diabolic Tutor. I didn't have money for another Demonic Tutor, but yeah, if you can get Demonic Tutor. Diabolic Tutor. Search your library for any card and put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library. Just want to say, too, Black Tutors are always the best if you have the chance, because you don't have to reveal them. That is huge. Revealing cards always sucks, right? Here's what I'm about to do, everybody. All get ready. But with black, you don't have to do that. It's good. All right. Blood Mist. Another card you might be like, huh? Right? But at the beginning of combat of your turn, choose target creature and give that creature double strike. And it's a 4 to cast enchantment. 1 red and 3 colorless. And I think this might actually be even better than Fire Shrieker, because, enchantments are just harder to get rid of in the game in general. You don't have to keep re-equipping it or anything. And yeah, giving a creature double strike. I was given Nezahal double strike yesterday. That's what I was doing. I took someone out that way. That was good. And then we got the lands. I'll say I got 37 lands. Do what we can with the lands. I'll point out the utility lands I got here. I got the Arch of Arazka. All right, lets you draw a card. It's always good. Rogue's Passage. It makes a creature unblockable. You got dragons. And if you got Blood Mist, give them double strike, give them unblockable. We got Detection Tower. And this was relevant yesterday. Plenty of cards were, equipped with the, Swifty Boots and the Lightning Greaves. Well, this wouldn't help with Lightning Greaves, but, definitely there's some Swifty Boots going on. So Detection Tower says it can tap for a colorless, or it can pay 1 and tap it until end of turn. Your opponents and creatures your opponents control with hexproof can be the targets of spells and abilities you control as though they didn't have hexproof. So long way of saying they lose hexproof. I don't know why they just don't say that anymore. Lose hexproof till the end of the turn. Instead, they have to say they can be targets of spells and abilities as though they didn't have hexproof. Like, just say they lose hexproof. God. Anyway, Detection Tower. So a great card to prevent that hexproof stuff from avoiding you. Got Ghost Quarter to deal with troublesome lands. All right, because they're out there. Got to get rid of those crazy lands. Crucible of the Spirit Dragon, great for any dragon deck. Helps you cast dragon cards. Yeah. Got Reliquary Tower. No maximum hand size. Always good when you're drawing tons of cards. Or if somebody casts, that blue Praetor that makes you your maximum hand size is reduced by 7. Well, this you have no maximum hand size, so this is great for dealing with Genetaxis. Then Unclaimed Territory. You want this for any tribal deck. Choose a creature type, and you get to add mana of any color to cast that creature. Or it also adds a colorless mana when you're just casting something else. So relevant for any tribal deck is Unclaimed Territory. Desolate Lighthouse. This is a great utility to draw more cards. So taps to add a colorless, or pay 1, a blue, and a red to draw a card, and then discard a card. And Temple of the False God should be in literally every single commander deck ever. Probably underestimated. Temple of the False God. I have never had it not work. I've never had like just I mean, if you have it in your opening hand and no other lands, yeah, obviously, you know, mulligan. You don't want it as in your opening hand when you only got 1 or 2 other lands. But I mean, it has always gone off. This has always become a 2 mana enter untapped land. Really good land. And Crumbling Necropolis, obviously for our Grixis colors, red, blue, or black. There's tapped. Got Evolving Wilds because I'm cheap. Forgotten Cave, the cycling lands, you should put them in every deck. You know, it's just free draw when you're mana flooded. You know, and you draw one of these, you get to discard it and draw a card. So cycling lands are great. So we got Ash Barrens, another basic land cycling card. I'm running low on the cyclings because I've got a lot of decks on building, so I kind of dispersed them a lot. The other non-basics I got are Sulphur Falls, enters untapped if you control a mountain or island. New one, Luxury Suite, super great card from Battle Bonds. Just enters untapped if you can have 2 or more opponents. And I love the artwork. Luxury Suite for black red, like it's so interesting. And Temple of Epiphany, I actually really do like the Scry tap lands. I mean, scrying, again, is underestimated. It's great. It's card advantage. It's fixing your deck. And that's it for the utility lands. Well, I mean, I do have... okay, here's Drowned Catacomb. Enters untapped if you have an island or a swamp. Is It Boiler Works? Returns a land to your hand. Adds both a blue and a red to your mana pool. I mean, they're honestly good. The bounce lands are good. You should include them in your decks if you're playing multicolors. But, you got to just think about it. The land you return to your hand should be a land you've already tapped for mana, and it should be a land that's going to enter again untapped, right? And that's it. As long as you got that, this card is going to be great for you. Fetid Pools, another cycling land, right? Pay 2 of anything and cycle it, and it's dual colored, so that is fabulous. Get all these dual colored cycling lands you can now. They're probably going to go up in value, I think. A good buy, and really helpful, again, when you're flooded in mana, and you draw another land, but it's a Fetid Pools. You're like, great, I can just cycle this out and get something else. So yeah, that's it for the utility lands. Again, 37 lands total. This is actually my first video I'm going to be posting, so let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the deck. Again, it's got a lot of work to be done to it, but if you're going to diss on me for dissing on the flavor, I don't care, whatever. The flavor is whatever it's about, playing the game competitively, and that's what's fun. It is about having fun, but it's not about building a deck that's bad to have fun. All right, so keep that in mind, and good luck, everybody. Take care.